There is no election in the world that is as watched as the presidential election of the United States of America. That is exactly the case in this country.
It must be because we spent 50 years under the Americans. Then again, we had 300 years under Spain. But we don't stay glued to the television or the internet when there is an election there. We picked up many things from the Americans, democracy for one, although a little on the rambunctious side. Urban planning, or more correctly, a severe lack of it. The justice system, but not the jury system. Elections, yes, but not the electoral college system. Difficult to imagine an electoral college in this country given the Filipino penchant for electoral protest. The question for the rest of the world looking in as America chooses between giving Barack Obama another 4 years and the new guy, Mitt Romney, is, how will foreign policy change? Madeleine Albright, former U.S. Secretary of State to Bill Clinton and who campaigned for Obama, put it best in an interview with CNN last night that, and we paraphrase, she'd feel better with Barack Obama in the White House because his administration has learned to engage the world. Romney, Albright said, still thinks Russia is the #1 problem. Of course, Romney is not the only Republican who seemed fixated on Russia. In the election 4 years ago, the Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin was severely criticized for a quote that she never actually said. The famous, "I can see Russia from my house." To be fair, Palin was responding to a question in her first major TV interview about what insight she had gained from living so close to Russia. Her response was, "There are next-door neighbors, and you can actually see Russia from land here in Alaska, from an island in Alaska." She never lived it down, of course, just as Romney has never lived down his Russia quote either. Now let's go closer to home. In recent years, Washington has made pronouncements that it would re-engage in the Pacific after years of military presence in the Atlantic. Although in the 1970s to the 1990s, especially when Ferdinand Marcos was in power, the U.S. bases in Clark and Subic were major issues. In the recent months, when Beijing began to make its own presence felt in a very aggressive manner, a re-engaged America in this part of the world makes up for what we severely lack to guard against encroachments. The Philippine experience of America was felt most strongly in how the incumbent in the White House would treat the incumbent in Malacanang. No one will forget how George H.W. Bush, when he was vice president, praised Marcos in a toast in Malacanang, saying, "We love your adherence to democracy." Bush was to go on to run for and win as president. He was Republican. What we couldn't fathom was how the leader, whoever he was, of the free world and the largest democracy could stand aside and let Marcos stay on in power forever. Until, of course, he snapped and gave in to snap elections and made the mistake of manipulating it, then was told very gently by a Republican senator to cut and cut cleanly. He did cut, but that's because the Americans probably thought he meant Hawaii when he said Pawai. Not long after, America welcomed a new Philippine president. Cory Aquino was a hit as she addressed the U.S. Congress, and they listened in rapt attention, hanging on to her every word. So today, as the world watches, the U.S. renews its commitment to freedom by electing or re-electing its leader. All we can do is wait with bated breath, with very early results trickling in, just as Barack Obama and Mitt Romney are doing.